Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the absolute most gripping and honestly heartbreaking stories from the first age of Middle-earth. We're talking about the epic tale of MAEGLIN. Now, this isn't just your standard story about elves. It's a really profound exploration of forbidden choices, the heavy, hezzy price of defiance, and a devastating clash between the deep desire for freedom and the dark pull of possessiveness. We're going to break down exactly how a single, fateful decision set off a chain reaction that would forever alter the destiny of the hidden city of Gondolin. Let's kick things off right at the turning point. King Turgon, the ruler of the secret, impenetrable city of Gondolin, delivers this incredibly chilling quote to his sister, a red hell. He says, "I forebode that ill will come of it both to you and to me." Turgon has built this perfect safe haven, right? But he intuitively understands that stepping outside its protective walls practically invites the chaos of the wider, dangerous world back in. It's an ominous warning that perfectly sets the stage for the tragedy we're about to see unfold. Section 1. The White Lady departs. So, picture this. Eredel has been cooped up in this heavily guarded city for 200 years. Naturally, she gets restless. She's craving the wild forests, so she finally convinces Turgon to let her go. But almost immediately, she disobeys his instructions on which route to take. When she's denied entry through Doriath, she stubbornly chooses literally the most dangerous alternate path imaginable. She ends up separated from her guards in the haunted, shadow-filled valleys of Ered Gorgoroth, barely making it out alive, before finally reaching the lands of Himlad, where she gets to wander the woodlands free.
Section 2. Ensnared in Nan Elmoth.
Now, as she wanders into the perpetual twiland of Nan Elmoth, this ancient, enchanted wood where the sun never shines, we get this massive collision of opposites. On one side, you've got Eredel, the White Lady of the Noldor. She's radiant, she's fearless, and she actively craves the open sunlight. On the exact opposite side, we have Eel, known as the Dark Elf. He's a grim, tall elf of the Teleri who loves the night, lives in deep shadow, and harbors a really bitter resentment toward Eredel's people, the Noldor, basically blaming them for bringing war to Beleriand. They are total complete opposites. So Eel spots her wandering near his borders, this gleaming figure of white standing out in his dim, dark land. Desiring her, he doesn't just walk up and say hello. Instead, he uses his enchantments to basically scramble her sense of direction, slowly and deliberately drawing her closer and closer to his hidden, sunless halls, deep in the woods. When she finally arrives, exhausted from wandering, he takes her as his wife. And just like that, she is entirely lost to her kin. Now, to really get Eol, you've got to understand his absolute obsession with his craft. He was a master smith who spent a ton of time learning from the dwarves of the Blue Mountains. And from that knowledge, he invented something entirely unique called Galvorn. It's this crazy metal that is just as hard as dwarf steel, yet incredibly thin and supple and completely resistant to all blades. It's black and it shines like jet, and he wore it all the time. Honestly, it's the perfect physical representation of Eol himself. Dark, unyielding, and totally impenetrable. So here's where things get really complicated. The child born from this union in the shadows. Eol strictly forbids Eredel from ever seeking out her Noldor kin. When she gives birth to a son, the kid's divided heritage is obvious right from the start. Eredel secretly names him Lomion, which means child of the twilight in her forbidden tongue. Eol, on the other hand, waits 12 whole years before giving him the name MAEGLIN, meaning sharp glance, because he notices his son's piercing, almost mind-reading eyes. Physically, MAEGLIN grows tall and dark-haired with pale skin, looking very much like his mother's people. But inside, his mood and his mind are entirely his grim father's. Section 3. Flight to the Hidden City. Growing up, MAEGLIN eagerly learns mining and metalwork alongside his father, but he's also secretly soaking up his mother's stories about the glorious hidden city of Gondolin. And this secret knowledge creates a massive rift. MAEGLIN's ambition to go see the Noldor finally clashes head-on with Eol's absolute possessiveness. Their golden opportunity actually pops up when Eol leaves for a midsummer feast with the dwarves in Nogrid. The second he's gone, MAEGLIN urges his mother to leave, arguing that they're basically living in bondage with zero future in these dark woods. Ardhel is thrilled. They trick Eol's servants, jump on their horses, and ride incredibly fast toward the borders of Doriath, making a really desperate dash for freedom. While Eol actually comes back 2 days early, and when he finds them gone, his anger is just absolute. It's so consuming that he abandons his lifelong hatred of the sun. He mounts his horse and pursues them fiercely, even by the light of day, tracking them across the wide lands with this intense, single-minded wrath. Right in the middle of this frantic chase, Eol gets intercepted by Curufin, one of the Noldor lords he absolutely despises. Curufin mocks the Dark Elf, but ultimately lets him go, dropping this incredibly chilling, prophetic warning. Return now to your dwelling, for my heart warns me that if you now pursue those who love you no more, never will you return thither. It's this critical moment where Eol could have just turned back, but blinded by pride and this toxic need to reclaim what he considers his property, he completely ignores the warning and rides on.
Section 4. The Dark Elf's Defiance.
Ignoring that warning brings our story right to the gates of the secret city itself. Eol manages to spot Aradel's white clothing from afar, and after tracking them through the secret hidden way, he's immediately captured by the Dark Guard of Gondolin and hauled before King Turgon. What happens next is a wildly intense verbal sparring match. Turgon actually welcomes MAEGLIN warmly and even offers Eol honor and hospitality as a kinsman, but there's a huge catch. Turgon's absolute law is that no one who discovers Gondolin may ever leave. Eol flatly rejects this. He recognizes no Noldor law. He just demands his son, telling MAEGLIN to leave with him or be accursed. Finally, Turgon, holding his Staff of Doom, gives him an inescapable ultimatum. Eol has exactly two choices: abide in Gondolin forever or die here. Section 5. Tragedy and Justice. Things escalate instantly from Eol's defiant choice. Faced with the reality of losing his son to the very people he hates, Eol looks King Turgon dead in the eyes, completely undaunted. He suddenly screams out, "The second choice I take, and for my son also." And with terrifying speed, he whips out a hidden javelin from beneath his cloak and hurls it straight at MAEGLIN. He would literally rather murder his own son than yield him to the Noldor. But Aradel, in this heartbreaking act of sacrifice, throws herself in front of the dart. It strikes her in the shoulder, and tragically, she sickens and dies that very night, because, unbeknownst to anyone in the room, the javelin was laced with poison. For this treacherous act, there is absolutely no mercy. Eol is led to the Carreg Door, a terrifying precipice of black rock right on the walls of the city, to be cast down to his death. MAEGLIN stands by, watching his father in complete, eerie silence. And just before he is thrown over the edge, Eol lays this dark, heavy curse upon his son. "Here shall you fail of all your hopes, and here may you yet die the same death as I." Section 6. The Dark Seed Sown. So, Eol falls to his death, and to the people of Gondolin, well, justice has been served. But the echoes of what he did, far from over. Now, on the surface, MAEGLIN rises to immense power and prosperity in Gondolin. He becomes this mighty prince, a mastersmith who finds rich veins of metal in the mountains, which massively strengthens the city's defenses. He even fights fearlessly alongside Turgon in terrible wars outside the city walls. But underneath all this outward success, there is a profound secret misery festering. From his very first days in the city, he harbors this dark, forbidden obsession for Turgon's daughter, his first cousin, Idril. Idril, however, senses something is deeply wrong. She mistrusts him utterly, feeling that his nature is strange and crooked. This whole situation is known as an evil fruit of the kinslaying, and it's absolutely vital to grasp the weight of this. The Eldar view MAEGLIN's unnatural, unrequited obsession as far more than just a personal flaw. To them, it's a twisted manifestation of ancient ancestral sins. It's literally the shadow of a grand, ancient curse falling directly upon Gondolin, a place considered the last great hope of the Noldor. MAEGLIN's love morphs into a dark desire for power, directly mirroring the exact kind of possessiveness that destroyed his father. Which leaves us with this final, lingering question to wrap up this explainer. Eol's body was broken on the rocks below the city, and Aradel was tragically lost to a poisoned dart. But did Eol's darkness, his possessive, unyielding nature, truly die with him? Or did it survive, quietly taking root within his silent son, waiting patiently amid all the bliss and splendor to ultimately bring about the fall of the hidden city? It's a harsh reminder that sometimes the walls we build to keep danger out are the exact places where we lock the danger in. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the lore.